Venezuela citizens goes to the polls on the first national public consultation of 2025, a democratic process that strengthens communal power. In Haiti, criminal groups attacked the Kenscoff Commune in the hills of Port-au-Prince, the country's capital, killing at least 50 people. In Palestine, the Israeli army killed at least 25 Palestinians during operations against the West Bank in the last 13 days. Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Ana Marrero from the teleSUR headquarters in Caracas, Venezuela. Now we will begin with the news. Stay with us. This Sunday, February the 2nd, Venezuela held a referendum on several communal projects. All Venezuelan citizens above 15 years of age have been summoned into the polls to decide on over 36,000 projects put forward by the 5,334 communes in the country. They will be decided among projects that propose solutions or initiatives regarding health, sport, education, roads, habitat, and public services. Authorities said voting centers will remain open until all those in line have exercised the right to vote. In this context, officials highlight a consultation, the first one to be held this year, has already had the largest turnout to date, specifically in the state of Zulia, Mérida, the capital Caracas, Anzoátegui, Falcón, and Barinas. And this hour, as voting continues in Venezuela for the first national public consultation of 2025, where neighbors choose the projects to be funded through the state's public budget, specifically giving more voice to the people's powers. We have our correspondent Melinda Los Santos from La Candelaria in the capital Caracas with more on this.
Hello, Anna. Exactly just as you were saying, voting is underway. It is a little past 8:30 p.m. here in Caracas, and even though 6 p.m. was initially the proposed closing time, we know that it is customary that the voting centers will not close until the voting ends, and that happens when the neighbors end the lines. And as you can see, you were saying we're at the La Candelaria. We are at the communal circuit number 2. And you can see right behind me, the line is long and the people keep coming. The line is moving, actually. People continue to go in to vote. This has been a long day. We were here at the very beginning at 8 a.m. and the line was already formed. So the neighbors have been coming through the whole day. That has been the scene we've seen at all the different communes and communal circuits throughout the capital city. It's also what has been happening throughout Venezuela. So we've been talking a lot about this process, what this public consultation means, and we are maybe hours away. We don't know exactly when the closing time will be, but definitely it has had a high turnout, specifically in terms of just the neighbors, the members of the communes and the communal circuit coming here and joining the democratic exercise of voting, as you were just saying, on which project for the communities they want to be funded first for this year. We've been talking to different neighbors. We've been hearing some different projects, all of them very specific to each one of the communities. So, for example, work to repair specific buildings in more urban communities, also work to do a better water access and facilitate that supply in different communities as well. So, for example, one of the communities with a lot of elderly population had last year voted on the building of a new drugstore, the recovery of a space to have an accessible drugstore in the community. So, as you can see, projects that are very different in nature sometimes, but the key element is that they all tackle the most important things that each community needs. Also, that this public consultation is not only about finding those solutions, although that is the key step, but more significantly about how that problem that the community faces is actually an opportunity for the people to come together, to gather in assembly, and to take action, to see and think that the way to solve that problem has to do with coming together, has to do with popular power, and that is what is happening here. One of the things that we have been saying a lot is about this being just a new test of a new type of democracy, a participative democracy. And isn't that so? If we're standing here just full of people, the kids are still running around. It's very calm, but a lot of action this night here in Caracas. I assume that's the case also in Venezuela. So we continue to talk to the neighbors. We continue to bring you all the information. This has just begun for
this year in Venezuela. Let's recall that the country has also 5 more public consultations to come just this year. Also, the constitutional reform is on the table, with the president calling for that to happen this year as well. These are all initiatives that are proposed to bring, to strengthen the popular power in the country, to strengthen the call for all the community to come together and take action, to participate, to really govern this country as the mandate states. So that is what is happening here. We will continue to bring you information. That is all for you. I go back to you now, Anna. Thank you, Belen, very much for all the updates you gave us at this hour, at the very date of the Popular Consultation 2025. And with this, young people from all over Brazil are gathered in Recife this weekend for the biannual Congress of the National Students Union. Our correspondent Brandmere has the details.
Thousands of students traveled in bus convoys from across Brazil to Recife this week for the biannual Congress of the National University Students Union, or UNI. After a series of debates on the political conjecture and cultural exchange activities, they held an assembly where they voted on their priorities for the next 2 years. In addition to school reforms, they agreed to fight for a tax on large fortunes and an end to the 6-day work week.
This
year is important for social mobilization. The social movements have a task to do, and the National Students Union is rising to the challenge, which is to block the right-wing extremist agenda that punishes the working class and the Brazilian people.
Founded in 1937, the UNI is one of Brazil's largest and oldest social movements. Historically connected to the Communist Party, it was a key player in the fight against Brazil's military dictatorship. During the Bolsonaro administration, UNI mobilized over 1 million people to the streets in 2 occasions, triggering the resignation of 4 education ministers and blocking the government from charging tuition in public universities.
Students from across Brazil came here and spent 5 days discussing the future of our nation. We spoke about ideas for new public policies, including how to reform our universities so we could decide what steps we need to take to create a country that is better and fairer. The story of the National Students Union is intertwined with the story of Brazil. Our struggle continues to defeat the far right and move forward so the people can have the dignity of the quality education needed to defend Brazil.
The size and success of the event shows that 88 years after its founding, Latin America's largest student movement remains an influential force in Brazilian politics. Brian Meir, teleSUR, Recife.
Let's take a very short break, but remember you can join us on our TikTok account as teleSUR English, where you'll be able to see news in different formats, news updates, and more. Stay tuned for more news. Welcome back to From the South. In Haiti, criminal troops attacked the Kenscoff Commune in the hills of Port-au-Prince, killing at least 15 people. Local authorities said criminal gangs came from the Kenscoff Commune near a dance to try to take control over the entire country. Some of the victims were killed in their homes, set up blessings during the attack, while others were killed while working in the field. There are also multiple reports of injuries and displaced people. In view of the situation, the government has declared a reinforcement of security operations in order to kill the outbreak of violence. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum issued a response on Sunday to the recent tariff on domestic products announced by U.S. Head of State Donald Trump. This way, Sheinbaum called on the Republicans to work together to address the fentanyl problem while underscoring the needs for the U.S. to respect Mexico's sovereignty. Let's listen.
Muy buenas tardes a todas y a todos. Como probablemente estén enterados,
good afternoon, everyone. As you are probably aware, yesterday, the United States government imposed 25% tariffs on products that we export to their country. Look, this has not existed for 30 years because we have a free trade agreement. The last free trade agreement was signed by President López Obrador with President Trump himself. This 25% tariff measure has effects for both countries, but it has very serious effects on the United States economy, since it will greatly increase the cost of all products exported from Mexico to the United States. It will have a 25% higher cost. According to these measures approved by the United States government, there are documents that support it. And according to this, one of the reasons for putting this tariff is because of the fentanyl that enters the United States from Mexico and that makes people sick and causes deaths from overdoses. But even more irresponsible, terribly irresponsible, is that the White House issues a document where it says that there are links between the Mexican government and organized crime. I want to tell you about the statement that I published through my social networks yesterday.
La razón de las muertes por sobredosis de los estadounidenses. Y también digo que si ellos quieren actuar,
there, I explain who are the ones who really have ties to these criminal groups, the reason for the overdose deaths of people in the U.S. And I also said that if they want to act to tackle it, they should not set their sights on Mexico, but on their own country, where they have done nothing to stop the illegal sale of these and other drugs. First of all, as I said yesterday, we categorically reject the slander that the White House makes against the Mexican government of having alliances with criminal organizations, as well as any intention of intervention in our territory. Sovereignty is non-negotiable. If such an alliance exists anywhere, it is in the armories of the United States, which sell high-powered weapons, yes, high-powered weapons, which are for the exclusive use of the army, of them, to these criminal groups. This was demonstrated, note well, by the United States Department of Justice itself on January 8 of this year. Here, I have the document that was published on that date, where the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms and Explosives, which depends on the Department of Justice, note carefully, recognized that 74% of these weapons used by organized crime in Mexico come illegally from the military industry of their country.
Nuestro gobierno ha asegurado en 4 meses más de 40 toneladas de droga, incluyendo
Our government has seized more than 40 tons of drugs in 4 months, including 20 million doses of fentanyl. It has also arrested more than 10,000 people linked to these groups. We have a strategy. We address the causes and fight impunity. We work every day for the country's security. Now, if the United States government and its agencies wanted to address the serious consumption of fentanyl in their country, why don't they start by fighting the sale of narcotics on the streets of their main cities? Or how do people with addictions buy this drug? Why have we never heard of arrests in the United States of local criminal groups? How come money laundering by criminal groups there is not investigated? Why don't they put all their intelligence to work to detect criminal groups that sell fentanyl in their territory or other drugs? Well, they could also start a massive campaign to prevent the consumption of these drugs and take care of their young people, as we do here in Mexico.
Está en su país y ese es un problema también de salud pública que nunca han atendido. ¿Por qué no se preguntan cuál es la razón de fondo de
drug use and distribution is in your country, and that is also a public health problem that you have never addressed. Why don't you ask yourself what is the underlying reason for so much drug use that has been going on for so long in the United States? Besides, and I also mentioned it yesterday, look, the synthetic opioid epidemic in the United States has its origin in the indiscriminate prescription of this type of medication, which was authorized by the Food and Drug Administration, the so-called FDA, as demonstrated by a lawsuit against a pharmaceutical company. There are television series that explain it. What's more, the drug that caused the synthetic opioid consumption crisis is still being sold in pharmacies with official authorization. I want to tell you, and this is very important, Mexico does not want confrontation. We start from collaboration between neighboring countries. Mexico not only does not want fentanyl to reach the United States, but we do not want it to reach anywhere. Therefore, if the United States wants to combat criminal groups and wants us to do so together, we must work in an integrated manner, but always under principles. The principles of shared responsibility, mutual trust, collaboration, and above all, respect for sovereignty.
De colaboración y sobre todo respeto a la soberanía. La soberanía no es negociable.
Sovereignty is not negotiable. Coordination, yes. Subordination, no. To this end, yesterday, in my statement, I proposed to President Trump that we establish a working group with our best teams, those in security and also those in public health. Problems are not resolved by imposing tariffs, but by talking and dialoguing, as we did. But I want to tell you this. We did it this way in recent weeks with the State Department to address the phenomenon of migration, in our case, always with respect for human rights. The graph that President Trump has been posting on his social media about the decrease in immigration was created by none other than our team, which has been in constant communication with his.
Fue elaborada nada menos y nada más que por nuestro equipo, que ha estado en constante comunicación con el suyo.
To our Mexican brothers and sisters in the United States, I want to tell you that your president and an entire people are here to defend you. If you wish to return to Mexico, we will embrace you here. The people of Mexico are brave and have a lot of dignity. They are the most wonderful people on earth. I tell you that your president is here. We have courage and firmness, but always, as I have said on other occasions, we must act with a cool head and love for the people. Nothing we will do will affect the dignity and interest of the people of Mexico. I propose that we wait for President Trump's response to our proposal. And in tomorrow's morning press conference, in the morning press conference for the people, I will be informing you of the first measures of what we call Plan B. As Juarez said, nothing by force, everything by reason and law. And between individuals, as between nations, respect for the rights of others is peace.
Nada por la fuerza, todo por la razón y el derecho. Y entre los individuos, como entre las naciones, el respeto al derecho ajeno es la paz.
Let's take our last break, but before we invite you to visit our YouTube channel at teleSUR English, where you'll be able to watch on interviews, top stories, special broadcasts, and more. Hit the subscribe button and active the notification bell to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Move on, short break, don't go away. Welcome back. Israeli occupation forces bombed numerous buildings at the UN refugee camp in the occupied West Bank in the latest hours. Palestinian authorities announced that the Israeli army simultaneously blew up some 20 buildings on the eastern side of the camp after placing explosives in them. Furthermore, they briefed that near 25 Palestinians had been hit to death of these attacks, in addition to countless injuries and arrests. Concurrently, Tel Aviv regime troops shot down a young Palestinian in the northern refugee camp of Hebron. The Israeli army killed in 13 days at least 25 Palestinians during operations against the West Bank. Health authorities reported that the military shot a 73-year-old Palestinian in Yemen whose body was taken to hospital by Red Crescent ambulances. They also report that occupation forces continue to enforce the reform control of the region by sending soldiers and armored vehicles. On Sunday, Pope Francis renewed his call for increased efforts to put an end to the war. After the prayers, the Angelus, the Supreme Pontificate address, the pilgrims and the faithful gather in St. Peter's Square at the Vatican, appealing once again to world leaders to take every effort to negotiate an end to all ongoing conflicts around the world, which kill many innocent people.
I reiterate my objection to war, for it means destruction, it destroys life, it leads to a disregard for life. Let's not forget, war is always a defeat. Let us pray for martyred Ukraine, Palestine, Israel, Lebanon, Myanmar, Sudan.
In India, the government has announced an income tax breaks as an initiative to boost spending and foster rapid economic growth. India's Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman said that people earning the equivalent to up to $14,100 a year won't have to pay the income tax. The announcement came as part of the new federal budget introduced by the government for the coming fiscal year starting on April the 1st. Prime Minister Narendra Modi said the tax break will benefit people and act as a multiplying force that will lead to increased investment. We have come to the end of this brief, but you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on our socials from Facebook and X and on Instagram as well. For Telesur English and from the South, I'm Ana Marrero. Thank you for watching.